After 22 professional fights, 9 of which have come against some of the very best contenders the UFC light heavyweight division has ever had to offer, Jon Jones has, for all intents and purposes, remained unbroken. So let us take a look back at the light heavyweight champion's title reign, ranking all of his bouts along the way. Fights will be ranked not by Jones' dominance but by the lasting impact the victory will have on his career as one of the greatest fighters of all time, if not the greatest. Sure. 9. UFC 159, Jones vs. Sonnen. We start here. Of course we start here. He dominated a proven wrestler at his own game. It certainly didn't do him or the UFC any favors, though, considering Chael Sonnen was a true middleweight who simply talked his way into a title fight to quench his thirst for UFC gold. If nothing else, this fight is a stark reminder that Jones is one of the toughest fighters the sport has ever seen. He needed only 9 toes to finish his opponent. Number 8. UFC 135, Jones vs. Rampage. Fresh off one of the most dominant performances by a challenger in a title fight, seemed the perfect fighter. Even after Quinton "Rampage" Jackson stepped into the cage, we still weren't sure. In fact, thanks to Jones' tactical prowess, Rampage only managed to land 24 strikes in a little over 3 rounds against the young Phenom. It was one of Jones' easier outings as champion. He proved he represented the new wave of fighters in a division of old lions. Number 7. UFC 172, Jones vs. Teixeira. Glover Teixeira was the man built to stop the unstoppable. He was primed to stop Jones' takedown attack, on his mouthpiece, and move forward with some of the heaviest hands of any fighter in the division. But similar to Jackson and every other fighter Jones has faced, he wasn't. He may have stuffed a majority of Jones' takedown attempts. He also managed to get hit more than twice as much as he hit Jones. All in all, it wasn't a good night to be standing across the cage from Bones. Number 6. UFC 140, Jones vs. Machida. The Lyoto Machida puzzle may have been solved already, but that didn't stop a few of us from thinking that the Dragon had the skills to get on the inside of the champion's guard to test his chin. In that sense, Machida was the guy. A solid counterstrike that sent the champion backpedaling inside of the octagon. Soon after the brief barrage, Jones took control of the fight and left Machida in an unconscious heap of former champion. Number 5. UFC 128, Shogun vs. Jones. In many ways, this was the fight that started it all. We'd already gotten accustomed to seeing Jones dominate light heavyweights with wins over Ryan Bader and Stephan Bonnar, but we were all still curious to see how he would fare when competing in the spotlight against the best fighter in the division. It only took a few minutes to get a definitive answer. He was great. Number 4. UFC 152, Jones vs. Belfort. For a good 15 seconds, and saw the champion lose his impenetrable aura of invincibility. He felt pain. He was human. But unlike most of the rest of us who would have tapped within 6 seconds of Belfort's armbar, Jones didn't. He worked through the armbar defense before dominating the rest of the bout with a bum arm. Number 3. UFC 145, Jones vs. Evans. Finally, after about a year with the belt firmly secured around his waist, it did. It wasn't necessarily the sort of back and forth action that most of us were hoping for, but seeing Jones maintain his composure while surrounded by a flood of bad blood was good enough to back up the hype surrounding this fight. Number 12. UFC 182, Jones vs. Cormier. A lot of people thought Daniel Cormier had it in him to dethrone the champion. Jones didn't just fight from the outside like he did against Shogun, Rampage and Evans. He got in there and gave fans the dogfight they wanted to see, ultimately giving Cormier a decent chance at landing some strikes against his nemesis. But as it turns out, closing the distance against Jones isn't enough to derail his GOAT aspirations. Not even close. Number 1. UFC 165, Jones vs. Gustafsson. Yeah, Alexander Gustafsson was the first man to equal Jones in stature. That wasn't enough to keep naysayers from pointing at a glaring hole in the comparisons. Jones was still a much longer fighter than Gustafsson, and that would prior to the fight likely be a big problem. But Gustafsson managed to negate the champion's reach and make this arguably the best light heavyweight championship bout in the history of the sport, birthing what many of us are hoping turns out to be Jones' one true rivalry. Do you agree with this list? Or you think your favorite fight should be included in this list? Comment below. And don't forget to hit like and smash the subscribe button. Thank you.